The year is 1942. The world is on fire, and young men from small towns and big cities are thrown into the bloodiest conflict in history. World War II. They march across Europe, sail into the Pacific, and fight in deserts and jungles. But behind the gunfire, bombs, and courage lies another story. A quieter, hidden struggle. The story of what they ate, how they survived hunger, and how food became as much a weapon as the rifles in their hands. Imagine yourself as a 19-year-old GI, standing in the mud of Normandy after D-Day. Your stomach growling louder than the artillery. What's in your pack? Not mom's cooking, not fresh bread. Just a small brown box marked K-Ration, the Army's answer to feeding millions on the move. The taste? Cardboard and despair. But for many, it was life itself. Tonight, we peel back history and uncover 25 shocking, emotional, and unforgettable foods that soldiers ate during World War II. Foods that tell us about survival, sacrifice, and the human will to endure when the world was falling apart. The first is the infamous K-Ration. Designed for paratroopers and frontline fighters, it came in a compact box. Inside, a biscuit so dry it could choke you. A small tin of processed meat or cheese, a packet of powdered coffee, a tiny chocolate bar, and sometimes a few cigarettes. Soldiers joked it was a meal for a mouse, not a man. But when hunger hit, they tore into it like wolves. Visualize a young soldier in a trench, rain pouring down, tearing open that box with trembling hands. He bites into the hard biscuit, wincing as his teeth grind against it. He gulps down bitter instant coffee mixed in cold, muddy water. This was not food for pleasure. It was fuel for survival. And every bite reminded him he was thousands of miles away from home. Then came Spam. Yes, the pink block of canned meat we laugh about today. But in World War II, Spam was a hero. Hormel shipped over 100 million cans overseas. American soldiers fried it on their helmets, ate it straight from the tin, and even traded it with civilians. It was salty, greasy, and repetitive. Day after day, Spam sandwiches, Spam stew, Spam fried with potatoes. If you were lucky enough to find potatoes. Soldiers joked that Spam won the war as much as bullets did. In Europe, starving families cried tears of gratitude when a GI shared his Spam. In the Pacific, Marines roasted slices over open fires in the jungle. It became a strange comfort food, unwanted but unforgettable. Imagine the emotional picture. A weary soldier on Christmas Eve, opening his ration box, finding Spam again. He stares at it with disgust but still eats, because in that lonely night, Spam is the only thing between him and starvation. Third on the list, powdered eggs. Imagine waking up at a base camp, hearing the mess sergeant yell, "Breakfast." You rush in, stomach empty. On the tray, yellow lumps of scrambled eggs that taste like rubber, made from powder mixed with water. No fresh eggs, no farm flavor, just a pale imitation of breakfast. Soldiers missed home every time they tasted them. Yet, powdered eggs packed protein were easy to ship and fed millions of hungry troops. Visualize rows of men in uniform, trays in hand, forcing down clumps of powdery eggs while their minds drift back to warm kitchens back home, where real eggs sizzled in butter. For some, the memory of those eggs back home brought tears to their eyes. Fourth, C-Rations. If K-Rations were survival in a box, C-Rations were bulk in a can. Each came with a tin of meat, maybe stew, maybe hash, maybe beans. The cans were heavy, cold, and hard to open. Sometimes soldiers used bayonets, sometimes bullets. Inside, the food was greasy, bland, or disgusting. Soldiers complained the beans gave them terrible gas. The stew was mostly fat, and the meat smelled like dog food. But when you've been marching 12 miles under fire, even dog food tastes like heaven. Imagine the visual. A foxhole in Italy, a soldier shivering in the night, cracking open a can of cold beans with dirty hands, scooping them out with a knife. He eats in silence, surrounded by explosions. wondering if he'll live to see another meal. That is the reality of C-Rations. Fifth, coffee, but not the rich coffee you think of. This was instant coffee powder, bitter, acidic, often mixed with lukewarm water from a canteen. Soldiers called it mud, but it was sacred. Coffee kept them awake on night patrols, gave them warmth in freezing winters, and comforted them in lonely moments. Picture this: a soldier in the Ardennes forest, snow all around, huddled in a blanket. His hands shake as he stirs a powdered coffee in a tin cup. He takes a sip, eyes closing, imagining his mother's kitchen back home, even if just for a second. That bitter coffee carried him through the darkest nights. And these were just the beginning. From strange canned meats to desperate jungle foraging, from chocolate that wouldn't melt to bread baked from sawdust and desperation, the foods of World War II reveal a hidden side of history. They show us what hunger does to the human spirit, how soldiers survived with so little, and how every bite became a reminder of home, sacrifice, and the cost of war. Sixth on the list was the infamous Army chocolate bar known as the D-Ration. But don't picture Hershey's sweetness or smooth milk chocolate. This bar was designed by scientists not to melt, not to taste too good, and to deliver pure calories. Soldiers joked it was harder than a brick. To eat it, you had to shave pieces off with a knife or dunk it in boiling water. It was so dense and bitter that many threw it away unless they were truly starving. Yet in the jungles of Burma or the beaches of Normandy, that heavy little bar could mean the difference between collapse and survival. Visualize a soldier pulling it from his pocket, dirt under his nails, gnawing at the edge while bullets fly overhead. It doesn't taste like home, but it gives him the strength to keep moving. Seventh was bully beef, the British name for canned corned beef, often shared with American allies. Greasy, salty, and endlessly repetitive, it became both a curse and a comfort. Soldiers spread it on biscuits, stirred it into stews, or ate it cold right out of the can. Imagine sitting in a North African desert camp, the sun blistering overhead, and all you have is another can of bully beef. The smell sticks to your hands, the taste lingers in your mouth, and yet you swallow it because hunger is merciless. Bully beef fed millions and became a symbol of endurance, even if it turned stomachs sour. Eighth was the field biscuit, known in some rations as hard bread. Not quite as infamous as Civil War hardtack, but close. These dry, rock-solid biscuits were packed in tins. Soldiers used rifle butts to break them or dip them into soup until they softened. They crumbled into dust in the mouth, but with a smear of jam or a slice of Spam, they became barely edible. Picture a soldier in Italy, huddled in ruins, dipping a biscuit into watery stew, praying it softens enough not to break a tooth. For him, that soggy bite is dinner. Ninth was tinned stew. Meat and vegetable stew packed into cans sounded good on paper, but in reality, it was greasy fat with a few lumps of mystery meat. Open a can and you'd see a thick layer of yellow grease on top, congealed in the cold. Still, after a long march, soldiers heated it over a fire stirred in biscuits and called it a feast. In the frozen forests of Europe, that steaming stew meant warmth, even if the taste was revolting. Imagine weary men huddled around a tiny fire, sharing one can between three, savoring every greasy spoonful as if it were gold. 10th was canned fruit. This was a treasure, a shining light in a sea of bland rations. A tin of peaches, pears, or fruit cocktail brought pure joy. Soldiers hoarded them, traded them, even fought over them. Sweet syrup dripped down their chins as they closed their eyes, transported back home to summer picnics. For a moment, war disappeared, and they were kids again. Visualize a foxhole in France, two buddies sharing a can of peaches, laughing through exhaustion. That sweetness was hope in liquid form. 11th was evaporated milk. Thick, canned milk that could be mixed into coffee, poured over cereal if any was available, or even drunk straight in desperate times. It Its smell was odd, its taste far from fresh, but it carried protein and fat. In the Pacific, Marines mixed it with cocoa powder to pretend they had hot chocolate. On ships, sailors used it for baking. Imagine a lonely Marine in the jungle, spooning thick evaporated milk from a can. Eyes closed, picturing the glass of fresh milk he once drank at home. The contrast brought both comfort and sorrow. 12th was powdered soup, little packets of dehydrated powder stirred into hot water. It could be chicken, vegetable, or beef, though the flavor rarely matched the label. Soldiers called it flavored water, yet in freezing nights it warmed their bones. In foxholes and tents they shared tin cups of steaming broth, the steam mingling with their breath. It wasn't a meal, but it was warmth and comfort. Imagine sitting in the rain, mud up to your knees, sipping thin soup while thinking of Mom's hearty chicken stew. The taste was weak, but the memory was strong. 13th was tinned sardines. Oily, salty, and smelly, they weren't loved by everyone, but they packed calories. Some soldiers ate them with biscuits, some mixed them into rice when lucky enough to find it. The smell lingered on fingers for days, and in hot climates the oil turned rancid. Yet sardines gave quick energy and were easy to carry. Picture a soldier in the Pacific, crouched on a palm log, prying open a tin of sardines, the smell mixing with the scent of jungle rot. He eats, gagging a little, but swallows every bite because tomorrow might bring nothing. 14th was army bread, often baked from whatever was available. In Europe, bakers attached to units turned out loaves, sometimes with sawdust-like filler to stretch the flour. The bread was coarse, heavy, and stale within a day. Yet compared to biscuits and tins, fresh bread, even bad bread, was heaven. Soldiers tore chunks with their hands, slathered it with jam or meat spread, and ate greedily. Imagine a weary column of troops in France, handed loaves from a field bakery. They tear them apart, steam rising in the cold air, eyes shining with joy at something soft, something real. 15th was peanut butter. A uniquely American ration, it came in small tins. Soldiers spread it on biscuits, mixed it into chocolate, or ate it straight with a spoon. Its thick, sticky texture sometimes glued their mouths shut, but it was rich in protein and fat. For many, it tasted like childhood, like home. Visualize a GI in the Pacific, sitting under palm leaves during a rainstorm, spooning peanut butter slowly from a can, savoring each bite like it's a luxury. In that moment, he feels close to home, even though he's half a world away. These foods, chocolate bricks, greasy bully beef, dusty biscuits, tins of stew, peaches and syrup, evaporated milk, powdered soup, sardines, rough bread, and peanut butter, tell us not just what soldiers ate, but what they endured. Each bite carried emotion, disgust, relief, nostalgia, survival. And every swallow reminded them of what they had lost and what they were fighting for. 16th was oatmeal, or rather, powdered oats reconstituted in boiling water. Back home, oatmeal meant a warm, comforting breakfast. In the war, it meant a gray, lumpy paste ladled onto trays. Soldiers stirred in sugar when available, sometimes canned milk, but often it was plain, bland, and sticky. Still, in bitter cold mornings in Europe, that bowl of oatmeal meant fuel for the march ahead. Picture a soldier at dawn, steam rising from his tin bowl, spooning down every mouthful as frost clings to his helmet. Each bite is bland, but it carries him into battle. 17th was canned hash. Minced meat, potatoes, and spices pressed together in a greasy can. Some soldiers liked it, others cursed it, but it was hearty. On long campaigns, hash became the closest thing to comfort food, even if it was oily and heavy. Imagine men in a ruined farmhouse in France passing around a can of hash heated over a small fire, the smell filling the air as bombs echo in the distance. They eat together, laughing for a brief moment, the hash reminding them of Sunday dinners far away. 18th was raisins. Packed into ration boxes, they were chewy, sweet, and lasted forever. Soldiers chewed them on marches, pocketed them for midnight watches, and shared them like candy. That burst of sugar could lift morale instantly. Imagine a soldier trudging through mud, exhausted, pulling out a handful of raisins, the sweetness reviving his spirit. To him, those wrinkled grapes were gold. 19th was tinned sausages. Greasy, salty, and rubbery, they came floating in strange liquid. Soldiers heated them, fried them, or ate them cold. They smelled odd but were protein-packed. Picture Marines on a Pacific beach at dawn, frying sausages on helmet pans, the sizzling sound mixing with the ocean waves. For a brief moment, it almost feels like breakfast back home, until gunfire shatters the illusion. 20th was chewing gum. Small sticks tucked into ration packs, sometimes Wrigley's, sometimes generic brands. Soldiers chewed to fight hunger, calm nerves, or stay awake on guard duty. Gum became a symbol of American GIs. Shared with children in liberated towns, traded with allies, even used as makeshift glue. Visualize a young soldier giving a piece of gum to a hungry child in France. The child's eyes light up, chewing happily, a small act of humanity in a world of destruction. 21st was canned chicken. Rare, precious, and often reserved for special meals, it was a taste of home. Unlike Spam or bully beef, chicken felt familiar. Soldiers opened the can, mixed it with biscuits or rice, and for a moment, pretended they were back at the family table. Imagine Christmas 1944 in Belgium. Soldiers huddled in snow, opening cans of chicken, sharing them as a feast. It wasn't turkey, but it was close enough to bring tears. 22nd was candy, small pieces packed into ration boxes. Sometimes chocolate, sometimes hard candy. These little sweets were treasures, giving bursts of joy. Soldiers saved them for long marches or shared them with friends. Imagine two buddies in a foxhole, splitting a piece of candy in half, savoring it slowly, smiling despite the horror around them. That sugar was not just food, it was friendship and hope. 23rd was canned beans. Filling, cheap, and plentiful. Beans came in tomato sauce with pork or plain. Soldiers ate them hot or cold, often complaining about the gas they caused. But beans gave strength. Picture a group of men around a campfire in Italy, sharing cans of beans, singing softly, their laughter carrying into the night. Simple beans became a reminder of home-cooked meals. 24th was macaroni and cheese, or at least a rough military version of it. Powdered cheese mixed with boiled pasta, often gummy and bland. Yet, for soldiers who grew up with homemade mac and cheese, even this poor imitation felt comforting. Imagine a mess hall in England, rows of soldiers eating sloppy mac and cheese, joking and teasing one another, feeling almost normal for a few minutes. 25th, and perhaps most emotional of all, was bread baked by locals. In occupied towns, civilians shared what little they had. Fresh bread from a farmhouse oven, handed to starving soldiers, was more than food. It was a gift of humanity. Imagine a young French woman handing a loaf to an American GI, their eyes meeting, both knowing this loaf could have cost her dearly. The soldier tears off a piece, the smell of real bread overwhelming him, tears stinging his eyes. In that moment, bread became more than nourishment. It became a symbol of kindness, unity, and survival. And so, from powdered eggs to Spam, from chocolate bricks to bread baked in secret, these 25 foods tell a hidden history of World War II. They tell us how soldiers survived with what they were given, how every bite carried memory and meaning. Food was never just food. It was survival, comfort, hope, and sometimes disgust. It was the taste of war itself. Imagine these young men, far from home, choking down rations, dreaming of family dinners, praying they would live to taste them again. Some did. Many never returned. But their stories live on, even in the crumbs of hard biscuits and the syrup of canned peaches. To remember what they ate is to remember who they were, and the sacrifices they made in the darkest chapter of human history.